John Grisham's 1999 novel, The Testament is not only part adventure tale and part legal thriller but also a story of spiritual renewal. When billionaire Troy Phelan takes his own life and leaves his vast fortune to an unknown illegitimate daughter, lawyer Nate O'Reilly is suddenly dispatched to the remote Pantanal of Brazil to find her and, unexpectedly, to confront himself. Once a brilliant hard-drinking attorney, 48-year-old Nate has become a weary alcoholic, weighed down by tax evasion charges. His perilous trek through the wild pushes him to the edge of death and forces him to rediscover what has real meaning. At 78, Troy Phelan has built an enormous real estate empire and indulges every luxury wealth affords. Cold and self-centered, he despises his 3 former wives as much as he loathes his 6 children who share his greed and repay his hostility. Speaking in the first person in the opening chapters, Troy views himself as lonely and unloved and tired of living. On December 9, 1996, he summons his family to witness through closed-circuit video his signing of a fresh will. While his ex-wives Lillian, Janie, and Tira and his children gather on the ground floor of the Washington, D.C. building, Troy, far above them, executes the document before attorneys and psychiatric evaluators. After the family leaves, he produces a separate handwritten testament that revokes all former wills, signs it on camera, leaps from his wheelchair, and hurls himself from the window, dying on the pavement at the feet of his heirs. He had pictured them as vultures circling with hungry eyes, giddy with the anticipations of unlimited cash, and they prove him exactly right. Troy instructs his lawyer, Josh Stafford, to keep the true will concealed for 30 days. During that delay, the 47-year-old Troy Jr. goes on a spree buying 2 Porsches. But the final testament names Rachel Lane, Troy's secret daughter, as sole beneficiary of the $11 billion estate. With Troy now gone, the story switches to a third-person narration, alternating between the family's desperate legal maneuvers in Virginia and Josh's mission to locate Rachel in Brazil. Rachel, now 42, resulted from a brief Louisiana affair, and she met Troy only once in her life. Before dying, he tracked her to the Pantanal wetlands, where she serves as a missionary and physician with the World Tribes Organization. Josh appoints Nate, previously a colleague at his firm, to find her. Nate has just exited drug rehab for the 4th time and is under the thumb of the IRS, so he can hardly decline the assignment. He accepts the money and heads south. Arriving in Corumba on Christmas Eve, Nate meets Jeevy, the affable guide hired to assist him. Waving cash, he talks a hesitant Cessna pilot into flying them over the area where they plan to search by boat. A violent storm erupts, the plane crashes at a secluded farm, and Nate, recuperating, grows fascinated by the peaceful simplicity of the farmer's children. Once rescued by helicopter, he and Jeevy secure a vessel, the Santa Laura, for their journey upriver. Battling his addiction, Nate falls back into drinking, and only with Jeevy's help does he manage to stagger aboard at dawn. Meanwhile, in a Virginia courtroom, the Phelan heirs are appalled to learn that an illegitimate sister will claim the fortune. The will does provide them with enough money to erase their debts, but only if they do not contest it. Troy's 5 adult children immediately hire attorneys to attack Josh, who, as executor, is determined to protect Troy's last wishes and safeguard the estate from their avarice. On the Santa Laura, Nate, Jeevy, and their cook Welly endure yet another storm that badly damages the boat. After repairs, they continue deeper into the wetlands. Shirtless, shoeless, sipping sweet coffee, Nate feels a sudden delight, convinced to beat the hell out of a courtroom. When the river tightens, he and Jeevy transfer to a long, narrow skiff. They become lost in a labyrinth of waterways, but indigenous villagers steer them back on course, and at last, they meet Rachel among the Ipeca tribe. Rachel refuses the inheritance outright and will not sign the papers Nate presents. After 11 years among the Ipecas, sharing faith and medical relief, she is completely fulfilled, happy with simplicity, certain of her place in the world and the hereafter. Drawn to her calm strength, Nate confesses his ruinous past. She encourages him to pray, to accept God's compassion, and to rebuild his life on that hope. Once back in Corumba, Nate falls ill with dengue. In feverish visions, he sees Rachel beside him, but when he finally recovers, she has vanished. He returns to Virginia and stays at Josh's cottage, where a chance encounter with Father Phil Lancaster provides him with spiritual guidance. Though Nate is sick of legal warfare, he agrees to represent Rachel's interests in the hearings over Troy's estate. The Phelan children bribe Troy's aide, Sneed, to claim Troy was mentally unfit, but Nate expertly dismantles Sneed's lies. Eventually, the feuding attorneys reach a settlement. Each heir receives $50 million and the rest remains with Rachel. Like Troy, Nate has failed marriages and distant children, and he feels a deep need to make amends. He travels west to reconnect with his kids, then sets out once more for Rachel only to learn she has recently died of malaria. She leaves her own brief will, directing that all her inheritance be placed in trust for the World Tribe's missions. Grisham uses the layered meaning of the title testament to juxtapose the ruthless corporate jungle against the humble rhythms of the Pantanal. To Troy's spoiled heirs, testament signifies entitlement to wealth. To Rachel, it represents her moral compass and her faith. As in much of Grisham's work, the central message is that goodness ultimately triumphs over greed. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy this video, leave a like and subscribe.